Guys, the good guests keep coming. They keep on coming. I consider this woman to be more of a hard-hitting journalist than really just a Bravo content creator and podcaster. I got to tell you. The podcast Andy's Girls, but she just launched another podcast, Taking It Personally. Taking it personally.
Taking it personally.
That's
you
what
got
I
it.
thought.
You killed it. You killed it already. You killed it already.
Okay, I got it.
Love it.
Sarah Galley is here. I've been wanting to get her on for so long. I kind of think she's one of the staples of the Bravo commentary, hard-hitting journalism. That is what we do. So please welcome for the first time and hopefully not the last, Sarah Galley.
First off, pleasure to be here. Number two, better to be a staple than some tape. Am I right?
Am I right? Ladies, am I right? Giving us our best Chadias. Am I right? And that's my time. Are you watching this season?
Okay, so funny that you asked because I am recording an episode of Taking It Personally tonight to discuss and just like that. And it came to my attention by literally myself that I'm going to have to rewatch the first couple of episodes because I was giving it like 25% attention, which I thought was a lot. Honestly, all things considered, I don't think they want our total focus.
That's how I feel too. That's a great point. They're like, please don't pay too much attention. We got lots of plot holes. We really didn't round out a lot of it. And they do, it's almost like episodic. Like instead of treating it like the old show was like you went on the journey with them. Yeah. This is like, what are we going to do for this episode? We'll make it about getting mugged. I'm like, what? Why are we doing this whole bit? That was episode 3, in case you missed it. That was
I don't 3. Even, and wait, what was the new episode that was out today? Was that 3 or 4?
3.
Okay, that's the one I didn't watch. Okay. Yes. I've seen the first 2, but people keep sharing this. You might have shared it too. I think I have. There's a video of Jerry Seinfeld years ago on Stern talking about the fact that Warren Littlefield, who was then the president of NBC, Warren had apparently told whomever, maybe written in a book, that he had offered Jerry over $100 million to continue doing Seinfeld for like one additional season. Jerry says to Howard, it wasn't 100, it was a lot more. And Jerry gets into this conversation of his affection for his characters and the fact that he sort of respected them and essentially I think the audience too much to continue it. And people keep on goddamn sharing that clip and it's making me feel some things. It's making me feel some things about it just like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. You know what? Let's save it for the other pod. How about that? Check out Sarah's coverage of it just like that. We'll save it for that one because you got to have some material over there. I'm covering it as well too. So guys, you can check it out all over the place. I'm pretty sure it's probably going to be in the same vein where it's like a mock recap because it's just so ludicrous for me. I find it to be the most ludicrous, silly show in the world.
Oh,
I do.
That's interesting. Well, no, this is why I love television and why I love, recording AG and what I keep workshopping as tip, although no one is catching on to that. But, like Andy's Girls focuses on the psychology behind housewives and often other forms of television. Shout out Vanderpump Rules. And Tip is focusing on non-housewives television, but the vibe and the mission is still the same, which is unpacking how our experiences and our intentions often influence our perspectives of what we're watching on TV. So to do a mock recap is really fascinating to me because I don't know, in all the stages of like grieving, I don't know that I'm fully at mock, though I have been before. I think I'm still like holding on to trying to understand what the fuck it is that we're watching.
What are
like
they
genuinely
doing?
like, and how does this impact the relationship that so many of us have held really dear with Sex and the City? Like, are we supposed to analyze this on its own, but like, is it even its own show? You know what I'm saying?
I don't think
it's
you
so complicated.
That you're already doing a mock recap. You're just cracking me up because you're so earnest.
I am
earnest and like, I really would like to understand it. And that's the feeling though, where you're watching it like, is it supposed to not be sexy at all?
other part of it too is like the fucking at the most recent. So I haven't seen today's episode, but last week I was like, none of this feels connected with anything. Like the act of having sex and our intention in that and our experience was very connected to the plot. Like, spoiler alert, it's in the title of the original show.
Yeah.
And last week's episode, I was like, there's literally no reason that we're watching this. We're just watching this so that we understand that some of these people are having sex. Like there's no other, it's not connected to anything. We're not talking about it in a way that feels
titillated
specific.
Because it feels almost clinical. It feels like we're like, and this is how these people have sex. And now this is how I'm like, I don't need a course in this.
I mean, I don't think they would be the ones to teach it. I got to tell you, like, it's just, it does feel deeply unsexy. And say what you want about Sex in the City and it living in a fantasy land, you can't say that it wasn't a sex. It was a funny show. I mean, they made fun of sex, God bless, but like,
absolutely,
there were some sexy points.
Oh yeah. Because I decided just to have on in the background, have on old Sex in the City last week. And so I was getting turned on with like a lot of the scenes. So God. It was a hot show. Silly as hell, but in a way that it knew what it was and still had a linear message. This one, it's almost like they're throwing things out like, let's just play with this idea. It's almost like they know they can't mess up. We'll love it and we'll watch it no matter what. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, on that note, let's
and transition. Just like that,
and
we're
just
back.
Like that, we go to Orange County. Here at She Speaks Bravo, we believe that Bravo TV is a great form of self-care and therapy. I mean, look at me. I've been using it for over a decade, and I'm a complete mess.
What is this, honey?
I love that. I'm Emily. Every week, I recap the latest episodes of your favorite Bravo shows, from Housewives to Vanderpump Rules.
We need to get more cosmopolitan. Hot teeny!
So if you're not already subscribed, get subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode. We are here to discuss Orange County. And as I do with all of my guests, I'm going to go through the cast and you're going to let me know thoughts on each one. Okay?
Okay, this is going to be real hard for me. I have to tell you.
I love it. I'm so excited.
Hard. Okay, great.
Tamara. We're starting strong.
Fine. You know, Tamara, it's one of those things where there are moments where I'm so happy she's back and other moments where I feel like she's, crafty and devious. And that's why we want her to be back. But sometimes her lack of, it's not even a lack of commitment. She's obviously very commitment, but a lack of sincerity sometimes in how she behaves in scenes. It's very clearly insincere, which is also one of the reasons we want her to be back. It's just one of those things. I'm glad she's back, and I will try to process that adoration for a minute.
No, I can totally agree with that assessment. What about Shannon?
Hashtag I stand for Shan. She is my number one housewife. In my top 5, absolutely she is there. She's also my spiritual housewife. She's the housewife I most connect myself to and with. I love her. Her broken bird, complicated thoughts and feels about herself. And she is a complicated woman who I also think is very funny, often on purpose, which is sometimes unique for housewives. And she makes me giggle. I just love her so much. I love her so much.
It is unique for housewives to be intentionally funny and not accidentally funny. Just from like Dorit. Dorit is accidentally funny all the time because she's just, and she remains unaware. Like even when you show her why it's funny, she's like, well, I stand by what I said. Like, never mind, Dorit. Never mind. We're moving on. Okay, Heather.
You know what? I just watched the newest episode because I'm one of those people who almost never watches episodes live because it makes me feel anxious. So I just watched the newest. Me
too.
Right? And I can't.
What is that about?
I don't know. But the only time. I think it's the pressure. I think it's the commercials. I think it's like I lose focus because if I'm watching it, oftentimes I'm Instagram storing and then it becomes forever to actually finish. And then it's like, who am I watching for, myself or Instagram? But I, in watching the newest episode, I just found myself really appreciating Heather and just getting nervous because I do not think she will return. I mean, she's quite literally telling us she doesn't want to live in Orange County anymore, which
literally
isn't really a deal breaker when you think of where some of these housewives have lived and the names of their cities. It's not always in line. But it does
hours away.
Quite like are you in a different, like Tinsley Mortimer was like quite literally a resident of Florida. She was like, God bless her. We like
on
her.
Potomac, they're all traveling like 2 hours to get to each other's
real.
houses. So you're
Totally.
right. You're right. They don't technically need to be there.
Yeah, and on New Jersey, I feel like some of the women are kind of scattered from each other while still living in the state of New Jersey. It's not, you can't really, it's a wink at the idea of them living in the same community. But with Heather, I just like, I don't know, I had mixed vibes with her last season, but Heather's one of those people I'm really happy is in the cast. And I think that they would be missing her energy without her there.
100% agree. 100%. She's a part of the ensemble. She's not the only thing Orange County needed, which is what they did wrong last season.
Amen. Totally agree.
What about Gina?
Gowns, beautiful gowns. I think, I love her new hair. I know it's no longer new, but I appreciate that about her. I think she's a solid part of the cast. I really do. I think she's a solid part of the cast. She's often very reasonable. She has a good sense of humor. I don't have a whole lot else on her. I think she's really has obviously endured a lot, which we have discussed on previous reunions. And I appreciate her growth as an individual, which I definitely think we've seen.
What about Emily?
I'd honestly fucking die for Emily. I think she
Right?
is so funny. She's so smart.
I can't believe how much I love her this season.
I love her this season. Last season, I was like, who the fuck are you?
She was good last season, yeah.
She was so good last season. And she had blocked me on, which happens so rarely. I can't even tell you because I really don't. We're social pals and I just don't do a drag. And if I do, the person is certainly not tagged. But she did block me a couple years ago. And I really put out a plea to the AGs on an episode and said, can someone please slide into her DMs and let her know that I really love her and I would love to tell her that. And so she unblocked me and I stand. I don't know that you know what? I'm gonna low key stand. I think Emily's a great housewife. I think she's great.
Yeah.
I think she's great.
I didn't appreciate her when she first came on the show. I didn't
agree.
I didn't really get, I think it was just an odd dynamic maybe with having both Emily and Gina come on. I don't know. Like it was like, what was it? I can't tell. However, as we've evolved with her last season, I was like, oh, I think she just needed to get comfortable, figure out like, I don't have to do too much, just be me.
1000% agree. Felt the same way about Emily and Gina as a unit. Wasn't dying for it. And also those seasons weren't great too. But I have to say, I think part of it was also the Shane factor. Like Shane came in and was so seemingly unlikable that Emily choosing Shane made me feel a certain way about Emily, which is like
true though.
Maybe not fair, but welcome to Housewives. And now I really like enjoy Shane, and I'm a big fan of Jeff Lewis Live, and their episode was really great. Getting to hear his perspective was really interesting, and
I missed that episode.
Oh,
of
it's
Jeff
good.
Lewis Live, and
I
love Jeff Lewis. Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Done and done.
no,
I
it's
love
very
him.
dry. You will love the episode, and Shane is just so fucking dry.
He
and
would
like
be so funny with Jeff. Okay, yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, I think Shane was also like slightly confused as to the vibe because it is kind of honestly a very confusing vibe if you don't know what you're coming into. But I'm into them together. I can't say enough about how much I appreciate Emily on the show. I really do.
Agreed. How are you liking the new Jen so far?
Cannot remember her name to save my life. I just put up an Instagram story and I was like, am I lying? Is it Jen? Or like, is it Jennifer? Or is it like Laura? Like because she looks
looks like a Laura.
she looks like any number of names. And I felt bad because I was like, wait, we've had a couple episodes with her. I should remember this. So she appears to be the prototype of many different generations of Orange County housewives in one. And that's not a bad thing. I actually think it was good casting. I don't know what she's going to do. She might not do anything, and that might be great. We don't need everyone doing everything at all times. So I'm into watching this play out, although I do have some questions for you about Jen.
Ooh, what? Tell me.
Okay, so I obviously just watched this episode, as I've said 15 times, and the scene where she was talking about Ryan having cheated on, and that's his name, right? Ryan, her boyfriend of 2 years, has cheated on every partner, or, you know, however you call it, in every relationship he's ever had. I had to press pause because my gasp was so loud that I was distracted by it. I'm so curious for your thoughts on that.
What was the most bizarre about that moment was she looked like she knew it, but has been denying it and hasn't maybe said it out loud to another person. So for the first time, she was like, yes, it's never been posed to me like that, because it's a bold thing to say. It is a bold thing to be like, oh, your partner who's always cheated on every single person he's ever been with. That's a big thing to say to someone's face. So then she had to answer to it. And I think I saw her being like, that's not great. Cut to her doing the scene with him on camera being like, so you know how you cheated with everyone, right?
Can we circle
Let's bring
back?
that up right now. And I was like, this is intentional. This is like, see, guys, I am bringing it up. I am cognizant of the fact that he's a player.
So can I ask you a couple follow-ups? Would you, if you were dating someone or in a long-term relationship or a short-term relationship, I assume it was short at the point in which he shared that information, but I actually literally don't know, how would you respond to that?
Okay, well, the problem is she was in a marriage with children, and this is the man she's choosing. So it's like the stakes are so different. It's hard for me to relate to this because, like, I personally don't even think about wanting a monogamous committed relationship. In fact, I kind of would probably never really want to be in one and stay open for the rest of my life. Like, I don't know. My opinions are very, very unconventional.
Love that.
So I can't relate to that because I feel like I'd be like, all right, like at this point. But that also might be my own fear of commitment at this stage in my life, and I'm just like creating rules for myself. Like, I don't even want it. And maybe once I like meet someone, I'd be like, never mind, I'm obsessed with him and he better not leave me. Totally. So I don't know. But I know that when I was cheated on in the past, I cannot let it go. I do not forgive, forget, and keep it moving. So if I go back to that person, I think I maybe would have thought twice about leaving my husband for the person who's notorious for cheating.
Yeah, and I wonder, so many good points, and I wonder what his follow-up was. Like, is it, I've cheated on everyone, ... like, let's go to drinks? Or was it, I've cheated on everyone, ... and now I'm in therapy. Now I'm working on myself. Now I'm,
She looked like she had never really processed it in that way. And that is what reality TV, especially Housewives, will do to someone. Is it all the stuff you've been pretending is okay is questioned because these people don't have that kind of loyalty to you. Like, let's face it, we all have those people in our lives that we just know you can't say anything because it's just gonna be all defensive and all crazy. But when new people come into your world and they need to have it explained, you are suddenly like, it doesn't sound as good when you say it like that.
That is such a good point. Absolutely. And I think that it forces through the processing of denial in a way that maybe we're ingrained not to do at times because it's our defense mechanism. And if you want something enough, you can force yourself to imagine the person in front of you is like a different, or is going to be different for you. And maybe that will happen. But also maybe you need to process what happens if it does not. And this is, I mean, especially with Housewives, with its focus on relationships and in all forms, the focus on romantic relationships is endlessly fascinating to me.
I know I am a broken record, but I don't care. Kitsch products are designed to prevent aging, damage, wrinkles, breakage. It's the ultimate preventative beauty regime. Whatever your budget is, whatever your skin type, your hair type, Kitsch is all about little indulgences at affordable prices, morning, noon, and night. They started in 2010 by selling hair ties door to door, literally just hustling. Kitsch is self-funded, female-founded, and now they are carried in over 20,000 retail locations. We love it. The beauty essentials that I cannot live without will be the satin pillowcases. They also make caps and eye masks, and satin is vegan and cruelty-free. I did not realize that silk was not vegan because it came from silkworms. Oh my God, the heatless satin curling rollers. Say goodbye to heat damage. These are the original, the OG, and still the best heatless curlers. Do not settle for knockoffs. Get the ones that started the whole craze. Kitsch also has rice water shampoo bars. These help with overall hair growth and density. And then they have rosemary scalp oil. This is essential to support scalp health and hair strength from root to tip. I have a Kitsch hair tie in my hair right here. Don't ever use any other hair ties. It causes damage and breakage. I only have the pillowcases. That's all I use as pillowcases. You will never see a non-satin pillowcase on my bed. Because when I found out that when you sleep, you can cause wrinkles, I said, not anymore. Right now, Kitsch is offering you 30% off your entire order at mykitsch.com/shespeaks. That is right. 30% off anything and everything at mykitsch, spelled mykitsch.com/shespeaks. One more time, mykitsch.com/shespeaks for 30% off your entire order.
Enough!
What do you think about Gina being so triggered by Jen? Do you find it to be authentic?
I do think it's authentic, but I don't know that Jen deserves to carry the responsibility for Gina's thinking. And this is something that I've run into on Andy's Girls too. The idea that when a person is triggered, is it the other person's responsibility to carry that emotion or to apologize for triggering something or someone quite literally by making choices in their own lives. Like,
well, I love that. Wait, hold on. Let me back up on that.
Okay.
Hold on. I like that. Okay. I love what you just said. Is it the other person's responsibility to take that on when you're triggered? Beautiful. Because is it?
I don't.
How do you move as the person, you know?
Well, I think we get into that in content creation too, especially when talking about housewives, because it's like the Inception style, you know, game within a game within a game, because you talking about your opinion of Gina's intention and experience might trigger a listener at home unbeknownst to you simply because of your opinion. Does that make your opinion wrong? Does that make you responsible for needing to apologize to that person because they were upset for their own reasons and their own experiences? I think that's, you know, that it's like the world of trigger warnings, and there have been pieces written about trigger warnings, not necessarily. Experts feel a myriad of different ways about the nature of trigger warnings and the idea of trying to take responsibility for upsetting someone or letting someone know that content can be upsetting. And I personally appreciate trigger warnings for specific subjects. I just genuinely do. I will know based on my experiences, I actually want to stay away from that. But in other circumstances in life, a person doesn't carry a trigger warning on their forehead. Their life is not meant to be lived for you to decide that it is too upsetting for you to be able to listen. So it's like the difference between processing that and putting up boundaries to defend yourself. Like Gina might decide for herself, you know what, this person is speaking about adultery in a way that I find really upsetting and really triggering, I don't know that I can get close to them. And she has every right to do that. But is Jen responsible for Gina getting upset? I don't have an answer to it, but I do think it's fascinating. And I also think it's extremely complicated in the way the episode showed Gina's upset, because it connected adultery. I mean, and quite literally trigger warning, but it connected adultery almost with Gina's divorce with her husband, which involved domestic violence. And that made me very uncomfortable.
Yes. Okay. I think maybe because we've both, as when you podcast or when you create content, you receive messages from people like, that really upset me and triggered me. And you're like, well, is it my responsibility now to like adjust and adapt just because you had that experience where like that obviously wasn't my intention or anything like that? I'm always open to hear it because sometimes I have a blind spot.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, damn, I didn't realize that. Fair enough. Good to know. I did appreciate Heather pretending she didn't already know the story of Jen and Ryan and being like, so how long were you divorced before you and Ryan got together? I'm like, girl, Heather, you know.
I love it.
You know that. So Jen explains that their relationship wasn't physical, just texting. And Tamara keeps doing the thing where she's like, kind of giving a look to whoever Jen, if Jen's telling a story to two people, Tamara's looking at that person like, that's what she says. I'm like, okay, Tamara, I said this last week. Tamara absolutely is enough of a producer to know, like, I will suggest this person because there's potential for there to be drama between us. And she's like, I don't care if I brought him on the show. I'll pick that fight. I'll make him look bad.
Oh, yeah. I think Jen got to know Tamara as Tamara Judge, like former reality star. And now she's being reintroduced to Tamara Judge, like cast member on this show. And we can see a little bit of whiplash there of like, wait a second, I thought we liked each other. Why are you dragging me repeatedly?
Her head literally tilts like, huh?
I mean,
we're on camera, so I got to keep it together, and I can't say what I want to say, which is, what the hell are you doing? Cut. I can't. And Tamara will do it the whole episode and throughout the season. That is why I think it was good she took a break, because that's kind of what Tamara's known to do, right? She stirs pots and she's seemingly backstabs people, two-faced and all that. She was doing it very sloppy and without any focus before she left the show. And then they were like, Tamara, you need a break, okay? And it humbled her a bit and helped her like reassess. And maybe now too that she's talking about these shows on her podcast, maybe it gives her like a fresh perspective. But just like you said earlier when we first brought up Tamara, she is so obvious at times in her staging of these things that it does sort of take me out of it a bit, where I'm like, I wish you'd be a little slicker with it, like a little more LVP. You need a little more LVP, like snake in the grass or sniper from the side stuff. Because Tamara's like, remember how you also said you hated it? I'm like, oh girl, like Jesus Christ. Okay.
Totally. And that makes me a little, not nervous, but just a little like, what's going to happen with the Heather of it all when Tamara finally goes in for the kill, which quite literally everyone, most especially Heather, knows is absolutely coming.
Oh, they can feel it. And you can tell they can feel it. You can like see Tamara's eyes like, not yet. We're not going to go there yet. But it's coming, guys. It's coming.
Oh, yeah. 100.
When Heather blatantly asked, has he been faithful to you? Jen goes, he has. And Heather's like, you think?
But that's the other part of it, is like, I would want to know, as an absolute outsider who really should never be able to ask this question, but like, what was the process of cheating for Ryan? Was he getting off, like, for lack of a better term, apologies for seeming insensitive, but here we are. Was he getting off on like the cheating itself, or in being found? Because if you have that consistent of a pattern, it feels to me like some of the focus, unfortunately, is on this like masochistic style. I know that I'm meaningful to this person, so let me give a little bit of myself away or something. I don't know quite what it is, except to say that there's something going on here. If you have, and who knows how many relationships he's been in, by the way. I'm thinking
right?
it might have only been a couple. I'm thinking it could have been like a significant number of 1 to 2 year relationships. I think it was long enough so that cheating on someone would really land. And I would wonder if he's even aware of why he did this, which is an incredibly complicated question. I mean, how much of the pressure was put on her to just contain it? Like, oh, I've done all of this, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll process all of this on my own so that we can be together. Or maybe they really did work through it. I don't think we have the benefit of having enough information on it. I think that might be the reunion.
It seemed almost like the first time she'd brought it up to him. It had that feel. It felt pretty new. However, maybe not, because he knows his reputation. But I feel like there was an intentional blinder right around that department of the situation. She's like, we're going to ignore that for now because I'm feeling so good. Like, it's when you're in an unhappy relationship and then you get laid really good for the first time.
Yeah.
It's like,
hallelujah.
Okay. You are dickmatized. It's a thing. So I feel like this almost looked like the very first time she'd ever said out loud, like, you know how you've cheated on everyone, right?
I wonder what conversations they had about this, even going into Housewives, because in the process,
that's what I'm wondering too.
Right? Because like in the process of casting, this comes
up. Do people sit there
up.
and do that? Do they sit and go like, okay, this one might come up. How are we going to tackle it? Because I feel like you should.
Well, I mean, definitely that, because or not. I mean, Jen and Bill Aiden, I don't think talked about his affair not once, even though obviously I'm sure she had a lot of fear of it coming up. And in this case, like, I wonder, our producers, I mean, as is their job, asking, kind of just like shifting around, looking around and saying, hey, how's your current relationship? And how did you guys get together? And how, if it started in a way that was LOL creative, like how's that going now? How do you look at this person? I mean, how in depth are those convos? I would think pretty deep. So did that come up at that point? Or I mean, how could it not? I think I don't know. I really don't know. I really don't know.
Yeah. If okay, we're just gonna move that. We're gonna move along.
Yeah.
How about that?
It's so much.
It's like we can't get there. We can't figure this one out.
Yeah, we can't.
I really am obsessed with the fact that Heather and Terry took Max to college on a private jet.
Mm-hmm.
She was just laying down, taking selfies on the jet on my way to college.
Mm-hmm.
See you soon, college. And then her room is huge. She clearly had paid for the solo room, like the special room that only the really, really rich kids can live in. But the thing about Heather that I'll always love is how she is as a mom. That always softens me to her. She's so accepting and loving and doesn't make any deal out of the way her kid, she's got a trans son. It's amazing that this is represented on TV, especially in Orange County of all the franchises. And I actually teared up a bit when she talked about how she's going to miss them just coming in her room and sitting there and talking with her. And it made me be like, oh, I want to go and sit and talk with Heather when I'm getting ready for bed. I bet they had a really fun house.
Yeah, I think she's an incredible mom. And I mean, I just continue to wonder, how much money do they have? Because
how much money do they have?
It feels like an endless amount of money. And God bless Botched. I mean, I'm sure that's provided a lot of cash, a lot of opportunities, plus his work as a surgeon and her career as an actress as well, and who knows, family money or whatever. But they just have so much goddamn money that it's just, I get distracted by it because I'm like, yeah, they're on a private jet. I mean, it's like you would go to I was supposed to say Walmart, LOL, like Heather Dubrow is going to Walmart, but going to Whole Foods is how is she getting there? Is she flying to Whole Foods? I just can't imagine her traveling in anything but it's giving me a little Kylie Jenner, a little bit in terms of okay, got it. You've got all of the money I will never understand. But then it's balanced with, the process that she's going through as not an empty nester yet, but with two of
Yeah.
her kids gone. I mean, there's a certain amount of grief that I could understand a parent experiences. And what is it about? There's like that oft used phrase about parenthood that all of a sudden it feels like your heart is living outside of your body.
Mm-hmm.
I cannot imagine the compounded nature of that when your children leave your home. And for someone like Heather, who lives with a certain amount of control, where she really appreciates control, to know her kids are now across the country, and has nothing to do with trusting in them, which I'm sure she does, but just the very nature that it's like they are so physically separate from her. I cannot imagine the feeling of loss that can come with that. That's a lot. It's a lot for a parent and a child to experience.
The parents taking kids to college bits always get me. They always get me. I think it's so sweet to see our housewives saying goodbye to their like teen kids going to college. Like I actually appreciate it all the time. I do love though that the segue, it's such a beautifully crafted storyline, even though it's maybe not intentional, but like her kids going to college makes it so she needs to make her presence more known in LA because she just needs a whole change. And I'm obsessed with it. And then when we get the confessional where she admits that she's worried that, maybe I'm too old. Am I still talented? Lots of fears. It really makes sense when she gets upset with Taylor later. Girl.
Oh my God. The edit around that was so good. This was I have to say, this was like such a good episode. And that was because if we hadn't seen that in her processing and her anxiety about like being how is she going to be seen as a professional actress and person and her identity as a performer, had we not seen that earlier in the episode, I think the Taylor Heather stuff would have landed differently for people at the end. I think.
Totally agree. Talk about triggered. Heather's eyes. God. She's like, I am triggered. This is like my worst fears. Well, speaking of, Tamara and Taylor go to dinner, and then Taylor, I'm so happy we didn't drop this storyline. I was worried that Taylor was just going to like leave it there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm so happy. She's like, well, Heather comes over and she's like, you're so cute. And look, I have to say, I don't care. I understand Heather. I understand Heather being like, I'm not just going to go waste my time to do like some little movie in Oklahoma, because she's an actress and she's going to think of herself in such a way where she would of course not, who would even ask me? She is offended. So Heather thinks she's justified because she's not being condescending, but her very nature of being offended by it is condescending.
Okay, was it condescending? Because the thing is, like, it was such a one-off response. Like, Taylor was like, you should do it. And Heather was like, yeah, I should. Or that would be great.
Totally.
She wasn't.
And drunk. Everyone, when you're drunk, you can't hold people to those plans.
Right. So then Taylor's upset because Heather is living in a place of reality when it comes to being a professional actor and having representation. I mean, quite literally, that stuff could not be negotiated by Heather herself. She has people to do that on her behalf. So Taylor being upset because Heather is a professional and taking that as being condescending versus someone saying like, that was a joke style conversation. You weren't being serious. So now you're putting the weight of production being upset they lost someone on me. Like that like literally doesn't make sense to me. Like
no,
that doesn't make sense.
It's so awkward that Taylor even asked in all earnest. Like she's like, I have this little movie. Do you want the part? And I do understand Heather being like, no, I don't. I'm sorry, Taylor, but it does sound like a little indie silly film that's not going to really go anywhere and do anything.
And maybe Heather would be interested in doing it, but she doesn't owe you like all hands on deck immediately before going through channels, understanding what it is. Like when she was talking about like reshoot days and stuff, all of that is not because she's being condescending necessarily at all, I would say. It's because she literally has done work. She understands that when you're contracted to work a certain amount of days. Those are not the only days that you would potentially be committed to a production. Like, and is it, union? Like, there's a lot of stuff that she would need to find out. And Taylor saying that those follow-ups point to her being rude or dismissive or like holier than thou is just a total LOL. But also Taylor's like, plot please, I need to be back and have someone to be mad at. So this seemed like a good fit.
Yeah, no, I enjoy this so much because they both, like, the stakes are so low.
Yeah.
That it's like, this
Love
is
it.
fine. This is fine. Taylor, you should be upset, please, because now we get more storylines and it will absolutely trigger Heather, who happens to be going through like a whole renaissance of herself as an actress. So of course, like, this is so apropos. And Taylor was like, this will be fun. We'll do it together. And she'll come to Oklahoma and film with me. And then I'll be on the show more. And it's like, no, that's not what she's going to do. She's not going to go do your little movie. No.
And also
something. Oh, go ahead.
No, there's just like nothing. There's you said it perfectly. I mean, it's adorable. I mean, like it's
so
maybe
cute.
I'm being condescending. It's like,
No,
it's like, she has a movie and she's working at it. It's like good for her. Like good for her. She's working or whatever. And she's on Orange County and she hasn't been on Beverly Hills in so long. And like, she's doing what needs to be done. And, we enjoyed her on Girls Trip. And this is the new role is talking about Heather shitting on hers. Like, you needed something and you got it. So like, you do you, boo. You do you.
You win. You win. You have no idea.
I don't know that you win, but like, I don't know that you win.
You're
but
right.
Like, but like, you're playing the game. You're playing the game.
Yeah.
You're playing the game.
in. How about that?
Yeah,
You're in.
You're in.
You're in. Now
Yeah,
you're
God
a part
bless.
of it. You're in the mix. There
God
we
bless.
go.
100%.
I'm always amazed at the amount of luggage housewives bring on every trip. Because as someone who, if I can, I will get a carry-on. That is, I will make it happen. Like I'm not a big packer because I do have a genuine fear of them losing my luggage.
Oh.
Because it's happened to me one time and it was just like, and so for me, I'm thinking on these trips, you guys must panic that like, what if you don't get your clothes? You guys have actual like prized possession type of clothes. Like my shit's like from Target. So they all have like 5 bags each every trip.
I mean, I am an overpacker.
Are you a big packer? Ooh,
I love to
that.
have like 85 different options. It's not even looks. It's just like like preparing for an emergency situation. Like you don't know what the weather's going to be like, whatever else. And that is my version of an emergency situation.
So how many bags do you travel with? Like if you were going to go on a 3-day vacation.
Yeah.
What do you think you would end up with?
So like when I go back, I'm from Rhode Island. So when I go from New York to Rhode Island, I bring a suitcase with clothes. My mom was in town for 3 days here in New York. Was it even last week? Last weekish, I think, and wanted us to stay in a hotel together because that would be fun. And I was like, okay. And I packed a suitcase it was literally me going from the Upper East Side to Chelsea. And I had because it's like, listen, you're packing, there's must-dos, toiletry stuff that you just can't get around, and like a couple different changes of clothing per day over the course of 3 days. My bigger concern personally was like, you guys are buying stuff to go to Wyoming. When are you going to wear cowboy boots again?
Oh, 100%. Or a cowboy hat.
I don't like that. I was just adding up in my head, even like the Oshkosh Bagosh, like how much money is being spent for them as an LOL? Like they're wearing this stuff as a costume. So like, what are you doing? Are you just going to hope you go to Wyoming in 5 more seasons if you're hopefully for you still on the cast? Like what is
your
a
game
lot.
plan here?
Yeah.
What is the game plan? I love snacks. I often fill up on snacks and don't have room for dinner. Who am I kidding? I always have room for dinner. But I need nuts and olives and popcorn and delicious things like that at all times. And that is why nuts.com has me covered. Nuts.com is your one-stop shop for freshly roasted nuts, dried fruit, sweets, pantry staples like specialty flours, and more. Their wide selection means there is something for literally everyone. And their nuts are notably different. I lived with my sister and brother-in-law, and they even stopped to ask me, like, where did you get this? I said, nuts.com. They said, these nuts are like notably better than any other nut I've ever tried. But they don't just have nuts. The fact that they have specialty flours makes sense, right? Nuts.com. It puts it all in one place right in front of me. I got everything I need. They have plenty of gluten-free options, organic choices, and other really diet-friendly products. Whether you're looking for something sweet, savory, or you just want to stock up on everyday cooking essentials, you are bound to find something to try. You can shop a la carte anytime too, so you can opt into hassle-free auto deliveries so you never run out, or just pop in, grab a little something. And if you're already stocked up at home, they also sell directly to businesses. Snack with satisfaction, knowing that quality is a top priority at nuts.com. They roast their nuts and pop their corn the same day it ships, so they reach you deliciously fresh. Since 1929, they've been doing it the old-fashioned way. One taste and you will know the difference. Right now, nuts.com is offering new customers a free gift with purchase and free shipping on orders of $29 or more at nuts.com/shespeaks. So go check out all the delicious options at nuts.com/shespeaks. You'll receive a free gift and free shipping when you spend $29 or more. That's nuts.com/shespeaks.
Enough!
I like that we have a bunkhouse and a villa, and the vast difference between the two. The vast difference. Like the bunkhouse has literally has bunk beds. As where the villa is like where you would be. Thank God Gina and Jen were like, I don't care.
Yeah, but also the villa looked huge, so I don't understand why they all couldn't live in the villa. Like the villa looked, every time they did a full shot of the villa, I was like, so did they only rent a portion of it? Because it looked so big,
and
it
didn't
didn't
they
make
even
sense.
say on certain rooms, weren't they like, you don't want that room, you can have this room instead? So it's like they were acting like as if there were excess rooms for the people that, I feel like they said that at one point. Like maybe you don't want to be in here, you want to be over here. I feel like that was what they did with Shannon. Because of course Shannon's going to be the most difficult about it. I would be too. Like I'm bougie as hell when I travel. Like I'm not sharing a room. I mean, I will if I have to, but
I mean, I think Shannon is just so naturally anxious that everything is sort of, she operates from a perspective of like, this is all a crisis. Like she's so short term.
It's always a crisis.
Yeah. So I think like Heather being like, I literally don't care. Like if Heather Dubrow is like, please just give me a sleeping bag so we can stop talking about this, which she didn't do, but I think she probably would survive. It kind of says something about Shannon's, little temporary downward spiral.
Right? That's very true. There's even a load of laundry going in the bunkhouse. They had to pull out their own bath mats.
Oh, yeah.
So, but speaking of those, Shannon with her like freakouts, Heather and Tamara are like, okay, let's just do a little touch up and then we're going to head on out. And they're like, Shannon, how long are you going to be? And the way she comes out, it was just so Shannon. She's like, I'm doing the best I can. Guys, I haven't touched up my makeup and I'm doing the best I can. So Shannon.
Yeah, and she seems like someone who, because I spent a lot of time thinking about Shan, it's like she comes from a place of feeling like she's always under attack. So she has to defend herself. And she's like a basic, how much time are you going to be? I don't know how much of that is related to her knowing these specific members of the cast and like what could be considered plot and thinking like now they're going to shit on me for this, and how much of this is just her internal clock is always at like, oh my God, it's midnight, it's 10
100%,
o'clock.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to go with the latter. It's like which is what makes her a really good housewife.
Yeah.
Because I remember as soon as she came on camera, I was like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get I get why they cast her. They're going to get their money's worth because she can't even help it. She's just like so unhinged, just naturally in her core. And it's great Housewives material. Mm-hmm. I didn't expect Taylor to give us a bisexual outing of herself. I thought that was, did you miss that?
No, I was when she said it, I thought to myself, like, how did that work with timing? Because she is now with and married to her then lawyer when she was going through the process of divorce.
wild.
So I was like, where did 5 years come into play? But her saying before, I was like, oh yeah, that tracks.
5
That makes
years
sense.
prior to Russell. Is that what she said?
Yeah,
right?
she was. I mean, she
Prior
was
to
in a
Russell.
Yeah, she was in a
5-year
5-year relationship prior to Russell. No idea how old she was when she was in
Yeah.
this relationship. So I don't know about the gap of time, if there was one between the relationship that she's describing ending and then her beginning a relationship with Russell. But it was fascinating. It was really interesting to hear.
Totally. Jen talks about how she met Will. She met Will on a flight because she was a flight attendant. And she talks about like how they got together. And Gina's confessional, I just thought was funny. She's like, I wish I'd got to know this Jen before finding out about the affair. I'm like, well, she's still a person. Although it's funny because Scandival made it people think that like everyone cheats. What's the big deal? And I was like, it's different. But here I am being like, Jen, she had her reasons.
Yeah.
But you want to know why it's different is because Tom didn't have his reasons. Okay. He lied. He's like, our relationship is terrible. We never even talk to each other. We don't even touch each other. And then it's like, that's inaccurate. That's just not at all what was happening.
Well, yeah. And also a person has known Tom and Ariana, Raquel for years less, but, going on a decade. So you have known this person for so long, you're not meeting them at the end of what ends up being the end of their relationship. You're meeting them during a relationship prior. So it makes the idea of like identifying different from or separate from the Scandival really difficult, because the Scandival then sort of has attached itself maybe to Tom's, the way we've seen him for so long. It like is now so associated as his identifier because a lot of people feel potentially misled, versus meeting someone who's just joined the show and you've only had however many instances to talk to them. And during one of those instances, the affair is brought up. Of course, from Gina's perspective, that's going to be the leading thing, versus if it came up later. I mean, that's just, I guess, a lack of luck there or something else. I don't know. I don't know. They didn't talk about her yoga or whatever because Tamara was around. She was going to make sure that wasn't the headline news. She knew what was up.
Totally. 100%. Shannon excuses herself, and of course she accidentally opens them up to talk all this shit about John, but she's like, the person watching my kids didn't come, and they're like, well, how come John can't do it? She's like, I just gotta go. By the way, Shannon thinks that her in costume is like such a gift to the group that she's like, I'm gonna make up a little lie all because I had to go put on this saloon costume. And then it's over. Then she's just sitting in a saloon costume. Like after the shots, they just sit down and she's just in this costume.
I mean, you're talking to the wrong girl because I fucking love it. And it's like, it's so Shan.
I think it's so Shannon.
It's like, so cute and dumb. And that's what I love about her, is that she goes from being like very high strung and just kind of rattled to like, I brought a costume, I'm putting on a show. And I love it. I love it.
It was
so
exactly
much.
that. Like she went from being the one that they were like, Shannon, we're going to just leave. Okay. Don't freak out. We'll just do your makeup, to being like, excuse me, I'm going to go throw a costume on. Just like, it's so Shannon.
Totally.
But Tamara and Shannon, they do a little cheers. And Tamara's like, I love you. And Shannon's like, yeah. I'm excited to watch them get on track, because Shannon has said on multiple interviews and podcasts that she's like, it's a journey and it gets ugly. And I'm like, okay, give it to me already. Okay. But now let's get to the big one where Heather asks Taylor, how's the movie going? And I'm like, oh, yes. I got so excited. I'm like, yes, ask her about the movie. And I was happy that Taylor didn't back down. I was happy that Taylor wasn't just like, it's good, and then dropped it. Instead, she's like, I really wanted you to do it. And then Heather goes, I thought you were kidding. She goes, it felt like it was like, I'm a rookie actress and you don't want to be associated with something that I'm attached to. I'm like, well, it's not exactly that, Taylor. It's not like she doesn't want to be associated with something you're attached to. But unfortunately, something that you're attached to is probably, I hate to say it, but beneath her. I said it.
I mean, like, I don't know. Because, you know, Taylor's at the very, very beginning stage of interest in being a performer, and she's acting like an executive producer. And that's just where we're losing it a little bit. Or at least I am personally. It's like, you're not on production for this show. You're not sending her an offer. Did you guys discuss how much she was going to get paid? Like, none of this makes sense, but we're all assuming that she's the bad one. Yeah. No, it doesn't. Yes to what? Like, quite literally, what is she? Did you tell her when you would be flying out? Did you tell her any of the day? It doesn't add up in like basic math. We're not even in algebra 2. We're still in like basic
remedial.
Right. So it's from that perspective, I'm like great that you're standing up for yourself, but like it's still a situation that does not process. It just is not leading. But great that it's happening. Great that it's happening.
As
Solid
Heather said, this is a you issue. Right. Not a me issue.
Yes. I mean, hello. Love it.
But she schools her. She's like, usually there's a whole protocol. And Taylor gets that like meek voice that she gets where she goes, well, you have more experience than I do, so you would know. I'm like, honey, that's shade. It's shade. You're doing it in a shady way. The way you say you have more experience than I do. It's definitely got a tone to it. Like, oh, fine, Miss Actress, Miss I've done a million things. That's the vibe. That's the vibe you're absolutely giving off.
I mean, it would be one of those instances where this will never happen, but I would like to know somewhere down the line in the, you know, the big book of truth, how much of this Taylor created in her mind and genuinely believes, and how much of that is also associated with the fact that, you know, it's conflict for the show.
Totally. Taylor's like, if they reached out to you and sent you the script, would you consider it? Heather goes, I would say I would 100% read it and consider it seriously.
Oh my God.
Yes, she would. She would.
Yes, she would.
And then Taylor goes, well, I guess let's go from there. And if you're open to it. Girl, it's so subtle. So then like they kind of try to change the subject, but Tamara goes, oh, no, we're not done here. We are not done here, ladies and gentlemen. Tamara's like, but didn't the production company say they want Heather to submit a casting tape? Heather's like
sewing that all together.
She just like, this was the one thing that would really trigger Heather, because she's just said that she's definitely figuring out, she's got her fears getting back into it. And Heather's like, oh, really? They weren't impressed with my IMDb. They need a casting tape. And she says, so your IMDb was good enough and mine wasn't.
Burn.
Taylor's like, well, yes. I mean, I was surprised.
Oh my God.
It's perfect. It was really, really well done. Like the whole thing was, and Heather had an amazing monologue.
Yes.
I thought it was like so well spoken and savage. And Taylor really, I think she was giving it a tone when she's like, was someone with your pedigree. And Heather picked up on it and she's like, I'm not letting you insult me. And Shannon's like, no, she meant it as a positive. I'm like, she didn't. She didn't. And that's why Tamara's going to then be like, hold on.
Right.
What did you really say?
100.
Taylor? You didn't go, why would they want a casting tape? Tamara's like, we sat there and laughed at her IMDb together. And Heather's like, wow, this is so incredibly rude. I am someone who put my entire life on hold, as women do. It's not only anti-female, but just not nice.
I mean, it is a little bit of it's a showpiece for Heather Dubrow. I mean, I would be sending that to casting directors and saying,
absolutely,
this is what she can do just purely as herself. Imagine if you give her a script. I mean, my God.
Her eyes were emoting so much. Like they were just really, really giving me all I needed.
Yeah, and I also think, I wonder how Tamara prepped her. With we'll go through her IMDb and I'll reference the fact that there's only one episode 100%. Of this show, and then she was on this show, one episode, this show on another.
1999.
You're gonna win this. 1999, where I'm gonna call out all the things that I think are going to help you, and then you're gonna win. So
yeah.
I mean, I think Taylor probably thought she was onto something. She was like, I'm on the winning side here because I have Tamara.
Totally, you're so right. Like Tamara got her all hyped up, and then Tamara's like, "Oh no, I'm gonna throw you right under the bus
Oh,
and act like I
100%.
wasn't a part of it. Like that wasn't the plan."
Jen,
Like,
is it you? Like
yeah. Like I'm gonna I do this purely so that I can drive story along and keep everybody fighting. At some point, everyone gets mad at me, but I just keep moving because I'm Tamara. Like that's
Right.
very much Tamara's role on this cast for
Totally.
sure.
Totally.
Well, that takes us to the end of this. Next week looks like it's going to be fantastic because it continues. I do not mind if we get another like 3 episodes with this movie drama because it's not taking up all of our time, and we're still getting a lot of range from the whole cast. Like I enjoy Emily and the journey she's going on with her mom and realizing that dynamic. I think that's very fascinating. But I didn't touch on this. Gina is trying to get the felony dropped for Matt. I mean, just for his own success and stuff. And I was like, wow, that is. It also makes me kind of concerned about he has a girlfriend, right? Or a wife? A new one?
I think he has a girlfriend, and they both sort of couple, like Gina and her boyfriend and her ex-husband and his girlfriend seem to have a good relationship with each other, and everybody is focused on co-parenting. And the way Gina was talking in that flashback with Matt was like, listen, I'm thinking about it through the lens of like, this is actually negatively affecting our kids, because he mentioned that it's hurting his ability with like loans or something. Like I think he like
lost work. I think he like lost his job.
I'm sure. I mean, yeah, you get charged with a felony. That's not exactly,
Especially
a special skill. Yeah, that's not, I mean, yes, I could understand why he would suffer consequences as that, and a person could argue that he should. So, and also maybe they're at a different point in their relationship. I mean, it happened. Maybe she feels that she doesn't want to live in this space forever, that they're working on trying to find a medium that feels safe and respectful and healthy. And if she's come to that decision, she's thinking of her family, which hopefully includes herself, as I'm sure it does and should. And if they're on the same page, I mean, she's doing what she thinks is best.
It's just so uncommon that someone that people that do have domestic violence, like that, it's not easy to overcome it. It's not like the easiest thing to overcome. That's the only thing, is we really have not touched on that aspect, but I guess it's not my business anymore.
Yeah, and the way she was describing it, it was a horrifically violent, awful,
and it wasn't the first time, she said.
Oh, okay. Yep, that I don't remember, but could certainly that's terrifying to think about. And that I think at one point she was like screaming for her neighbors. There were other people. I mean, that is going to be at a certain point stamped on any number of people as an absolutely traumatic experience, and first and foremost, obviously, for Gina. And however she is able to deal with it and process it, and hopefully, I don't know what therapy she was in or they were in or whatever else. I just hope for healing for her. And if she decides that this is a part of her healing and what her family needs, I would never question it, because she's the one who unfortunately was the victim of this. So yeah.
I still side-eye him.
I mean, to co-parent with someone who did such a violent, reprehensible act. I mean, it's unbelievable. And let alone that you were married to this person, to see
exactly
what that love in his, it's terrible.
Let's not end on a sad note. Let's end
oh
on
my
a
God,
happier
please.
note. Let's like not end there.
Yeah, we can't. We got to keep things moving. So who's your MVP? Who's your MVP so far? Who are you personally like, doesn't even matter if they're giving plot or story, just where's your heart going? Who's got your heart right now?
I'm loving Emily. Loving Emily. I thought the boat episode, I thought she shined. I really enjoyed her for sure. And then I want to just say what's shining for me is just the cast dynamic overall. You know what I mean? Like all of them as a group are working for me. Like they all seem to fit, as were last season. They didn't seem to fit together. This season, I'm like, they all work. They all make sense to me on this cast trip in Montana. And that's nice.
1000% agree. And I also think, you know, we obviously, with everything that we experienced with the Scandal, everything that we experienced with, I mean, trigger warning, the Real Housewives of New Jersey, there is something so wonderful. This was my dream. I kept saying this on Andy's Girls. I was like, my dream is to just have a nothing burger and it be fun and like you're fighting or whatever and joking or whatever, but just like give me nothing. Like, what is it? Like, go off, give me nothing, queen, whatever the phrase is. It's just give me nothing, because that is what I want most of all. So them fighting over IMDB feels like such a safe space after Teresa and Joe like unleashing holy hell on I just want yelling at each other over IMDB and then Shannon in a costume. Like that's all I want. Give me 20 episodes of that and I'm yours. Truly.
Agreed.
Couldn't be happier.
Agreed. And like rinse and repeat. Like I don't need it to be one huge storyline. You guys can have a multiple.
Yes, please. Oh,
Keep them coming, because I can't belabor another point for an entire decade. Let's call it a decade for Jersey. It was. So I love how collectively we're all so traumatized by this past season of Jersey. It really, like across the board, everyone's been like, "I'm going to lose it." Like I had to tap out. I was going to do one full recap of all the reunion parts, but I was like, I honestly can't, you guys. Like I can't handle it.
Well, I discovered too late in the game. I did all these emergency episodes talking about New Jersey and Patreon episodes and whatever else, and discovered really truly after recording one like serious emergency episode talking about Louis and then a follow-up that was like PS on Louis, that a lot of content creators understandably were almost like making the responsible choice of not talking about New Jersey because the fandom is so toxic and so punitive. So toxic. And I was like, shit, man, I forgot about that. I just
the Jersey fans are the number one. Although Summer House fans were hitting that point.
So
for me
I didn't watch the last season because I just was at capacity. I haven't seen it. I also haven't seen Martha's Vineyard, which I heard was very good.
Fabulous.
I haven't had a chance, but I'm excited to get through it and to get through it quickly. And there aren't a ton of episodes, right? There's like less than 10. Okay, great, perfect.
Yeah, no, Martha's Vineyard is what we've been asking.
It's really
for.
Good. Okay, I need to watch.
Anyway, well, Sarah, you're the best.
Oh my God, you are. Thank you so much for having me. This was a total delight. I loved it. Loved every second.
Where should people follow and be looking for you and the pods and all that?
Well, you can follow me on Instagram at Dame Galley and listen to episodes of Andy's Girls and Taking It Personally on the same feed. So wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, hit subscribe. 3 eps a week, believe it or not. And let me know your thoughts and feels. Would love to have some listeners send me their takes. We do a thing on Patreon called Satchel Spectacular, which are satchels of gold. Named in honor, as I say, satchels of gold named in honor of Her Holiness Kelly Kaloran Ben Simone, which are listener DMs essentially, and sometimes long form theses with perspectives and thoughts and feels all about their own thoughts on either something discussed on Andy's Girls or something they've seen on the show. So I unpack those on Patreon. We do a little Satchel Spectacular moment, which I love.
Sign up for the Patreon,
yes.
guys.
Oh my God, so fun.
I'll link everything in the episode notes, guys, so you can just click and link and everything there. All right, guys, love you, mean it, and I'll see you next time. Bye. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you did, would you mind leaving me a 5-star rating and review on whatever platform you are listening? If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget there's the super thanks option down at the bottom, the little button with the $ and the heart. And also I'm on buymeacoffee.com/SheSpeaksBravo if you want to buy me a little coffee or 2 or 5. And my Patreon, that is where I'm covering all of the classic Bravo jams. If you want to follow me over there and subscribe, link is in the description. And follow me on Instagram and TikTok at She Speaks Bravo. And whoever the guest was for today, all their information is always in the episode description. So if you want to follow them and check them out, check there for the info. And any of the sponsor codes that I mentioned in this episode will also be in the description. I love you guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. And I'll see you next time. Bye.